All right, you bastards, strap in. Today, we're diving headfirst into the fucked up world of MI5, Britain's real-life spy shenanigans. Forget James Bond, this shit's way darker.
It's a world of secrets, lies, and betrayals. Sometimes it's hard to tell the good guys from the bad guys.
We're talking dirty secrets, Cold War bullshit, and maybe even some torture, who knows.
We'll uncover the history, the controversies, and try to make sense of it all.
So let's cut the crap and get this party started. How the hell did MI5 even come about?
Picture this, it's 1909. Everyone's shitting themselves over Germany and a potential war.
So they decided to create a spy agency, right? To keep an eye on those sneaky krauts.
Bingo. They called it the Secret Service Bureau. Doesn't exactly scream badass spy agency, does it?
Well, they got results, didn't they?
Right.
Heard they nabbed a bunch of German spies before World War I even kicked off.
Oh yeah, they were on it. First day of the war, bam, dozens of suspected German agents rounded up.
Damn, Kaiser Wilhelm must have been pissed. Imagine losing your entire spy network before the war even starts.
It was a major blow to German intelligence and a clear message. MI5 wasn't fucking around.
So what were their go-to moves back then? Were they using all those fancy gadgets we see in the movies?
Nah, nothing that exciting. Their best weapon, reading people's mail.
Seriously, they were intercepting letters to catch spies. It sounds a bit low-tech for a spy agency.
Don't underestimate it. It was surprisingly effective. Uncovered tons of secrets hidden in plain sight.
I guess people back then weren't too worried about privacy. These days, they'd be all over our emails and texts.
You got that right. MI5's had to evolve to keep up with the digital age, which leads to a whole new set of issues.
We'll get to that later, but for now, let's stick with the old-school spycraft. So mail snooping was their big trick during World War I.
It was a key part of their strategy, but shit got real during World War II. That's when they upped their game big time.
Things got to get a little more hardcore when Nazis are involved.
You could say that. During World War II, they cooked up something called the double-cross system. Pure deception, man.
Double-cross system. Sounds badass. Break it down for us.
Instead of just catching German spies, they started flipping them, turning them into double agents working for Britain.
Wait, they were convincing German spies to switch sides? How the hell did they pull that off?
It wasn't always easy. Sometimes they offered captured spies a way out of execution. Other times, they exploited their weaknesses.
So, mind games and manipulation.
Exactly, and it worked like a charm. They created a whole network of double agents feeding false intel to the Germans.
That's some next-level spy shit. Psychological warfare at its finest.
It was brilliant, and it had a massive impact on the war effort.
Really? Like how?
Well, it helped ensure the success of D-Day. The Germans were clueless about the invasion, thanks to MI5's double agents.
So these sneaky Brits basically helped win World War II.
They definitely played a crucial role. It's one of the most fascinating stories in their history.
All right, we've covered World Wars I and II. What about the Cold War? Did MI5 go toe-to-toe with those goddamn commies?
Oh, absolutely. The Cold War was a whole different beast, and MI5 had to adapt to a new kind of enemy.
I bet those KGB bastards were a slippery bunch.
Tough as nails, but MI5 held its own. In the 70s, they busted a massive Soviet spy ring that had been operating right under their noses.
Damn, straight out of a spy thriller.
It was a huge victory for MI5 and a serious blow to Soviet intelligence. But things weren't always so clean-cut.
Yeah, I heard some rumors about MI5 getting a little too big for their britches during that time.
True. There were accusations of them spying on unions and even left-wing politicians.
Wait, they were spying on their own people? What the fuck?
It was a messy chapter, and there's still debate about how far they went and why.
Sounds like they crossed the line. But hey, Cold War paranoia, right? Anything goes.
That seems to have been their thinking. But it raises questions about their power and who is watching the watchers.
Okay, spies, double agents, Cold War shenanigans. What other skeletons are hiding in MI5's closet?
Well, there's the infamous Cambridge 5 scandal, a story of betrayal that shook British intelligence to its core.
Cambridge 5? What the hell is that?
It's the story of a group of posh British guys, all buddies from their days at Cambridge University.
Sounds harmless. Bunch of rich kids sipping tea and discussing philosophy.
Not quite. These guys were hardcore Soviet spies, and they infiltrated the highest levels of the British government.
What the fuck? Are you serious?
Dead serious. Some of them even worked for MI5.
How the hell did MI5 miss that? They're supposed to be the spy catchers, for Christ's sake.
It was a colossal intelligence failure, a huge embarrassment. Took years for them to uncover the truth.
Damn, talk about a betrayal of trust.
It was a devastating blow to British intelligence with far-reaching consequences.
All right, so we got the Cambridge Five spying on their own citizens. Anything else that's going to make my jaw drop?
How about authorized criminality? It's as fucked up as it sounds.
Authorized criminality? What in the bloody hell is that?
It's real and it's messed up. MI5 has the power to authorize its informants to break the law.
Break the law. Like actually break the law.
Murder, kidnapping, the whole 9 yards. Anything goes as long as it serves national security.
Hold on, they're giving criminals a free pass to do whatever the hell they want.
It's more complicated than that. But yeah, basically, MI5 believes sometimes you gotta fight fire with fire.
But how do they justify that? It's insane.
They argue it's a necessary evil. Sometimes you gotta operate in the shadows to protect the country.
But who decides what's acceptable? What's stopping them from abusing this power?
That's the debate, isn't it? It's a morally complex issue with no easy answers.
It's a slippery slope, no doubt about it.
Absolutely. Authorized criminality is a Pandora's box.
Okay, so we've got authorized criminality, a massive Soviet spy ring, anything else. What other shady shit has MI5 been up to?
Well, there are those allegations of collusion with torture.
Collusion with torture. That's a whole new level of fucked up.
It's a serious accusation, and it's been thoroughly investigated.
So did MI5 actually team up with foreign intelligence agencies to torture suspects?
There have been cases where they've been accused of sharing information with countries known to use torture.
But wouldn't that make them complicit?
It's a gray area. Depends on the specifics.
Gray area. Sounds pretty black and white to me. Torture's wrong. End of story.
In principle, yes. But in the world of espionage, things are rarely that simple.
So the ends justify the means? Is that it?
Not exactly, but there's an argument that tough choices are sometimes necessary to protect national security.
Yeah, but where do you draw the line? It's a dangerous game.
No question about it. Using torture, even indirectly, raises huge ethical questions.
All right, we've covered a lot of ground. Spy scandals, authorized criminality, torture allegations. What's MI5 focused on these days?
Post-Cold War, their main concern has shifted to terrorism.
Makes sense, with all this shit going down lately.
They've been particularly focused on Irish Republican dissidents and the rising threat of Islamic extremism.
So they're on the front lines of the war on terror.
You could say that. Working with other agencies to prevent attacks and dismantle terrorist networks.
Sounds like a pretty intense gig.
It comes with its challenges and risks, for sure.
So they're still catching spies, but now they're dealing with suicide bombers and cyber attacks, too.
That sums it up pretty well.
I guess the spy game never really ends.
Not for a minute. There's always a new threat, a new enemy around the corner.
Speaking of enemies, what about organized crime? Are they involved in that fight too?
Absolutely. They've expanded their role to include serious crime in recent years.
So they're not just spies anymore. More like crime-fighting superheroes.
Not quite superheroes, but they do work with the National Crime Agency, especially with organized crime and financial investigations.
Makes sense. Organized crime is often connected to terrorism and other national security threats.
Exactly. It's all interconnected, which is why MI5's role has become so diverse.
All right. Fighting terrorists, tackling organized crime. What else is keeping them busy these days?
Well, there's the whole issue of surveillance, which has become a real headache in the digital age.
Surveillance.
Yeah.
Like tapping phones and reading emails.
Part of it, but it's much bigger than that. They've always used surveillance, but technology has changed the game.
So they're using all sorts of fancy tech to keep tabs on people.
They've got some powerful tools, no doubt. Intercepting communications, accessing browsing history, even hacking into devices.
Wait, they can hack into our phones and computers? Seriously?
All above board, of course, or at least that's what they claim.
Legal or not, it's still creepy. Big Brother watching our every move online.
It's a valid concern. It's been debated in Parliament and the courts. The balance between security and privacy is a tough one.
Yeah, because you want them to have the tools to catch the bad guys, but you don't want them snooping on innocent people.
It's a fine line, and we need to make damn sure MI5 doesn't overstep it.
So what's stopping them from going too far? Who's keeping them in check?
In theory, Parliament and the judiciary provide oversight. But in practice, it's a murky system. Hard to know what they're really up to.
Sounds like they're operating in a black box.
You could say that. That's why it's crucial to have open discussions about these issues, to keep MI5 accountable to the people.
All right, so we've covered surveillance, organized crime, the digital age. What else is new with MI5?
One of their biggest challenges is recruitment. Finding the right people for this line of work isn't easy.
I bet. You need someone smart, resourceful, discreet, maybe even a little bit crazy.
Crazy might be pushing it, but they definitely need to think outside the box and handle pressure.
So no James Bond types.
I wouldn't rule it out entirely, but the reality is probably less glamorous than Hollywood portrays it.
Yeah, more paperwork, less Aston Martins.
Probably.
Yeah.
But they do offer a range of career paths, from analysis to surveillance to field operations.
So it's not all cloak and dagger stuff.
Nope. Lots of intellectual heavy lifting, too. Analyzing data, identifying threats, strategizing.
So brains and brawn, huh?
You got it. It's a demanding job requiring unique skills and a strong sense of duty.
Well, I'm glad they're out there, keeping the country safe from all the shady characters. But what about the future of MI5? What challenges will they face down the line?
It's a tough question. The world is changing so damn fast, it's hard to say what the future holds.
No kidding. We've got AI, genetic engineering, climate change, all sorts of crazy shit happening. It's like living in a sci-fi movie.
Exactly. And all of it impacts national security. MI5 needs to adapt to these changes, anticipate new threats, and develop new strategies.
So what kind of threats are we talking about? Robot spies and genetically engineered super soldiers?
Not that dramatic, but the threats are getting more complex and interconnected. Cyber attacks, disinformation, economic warfare, terrorism, organized crime, it's all blending together, making it harder to counter.
So it's not just about catching bad guys anymore.
It's about understanding the bigger picture, the interplay of different forces, and finding ways to minimize the risks.
Sounds like they need to be more than just spies. They need to be analysts, strategists, maybe even diplomats.
You could say that. Adaptable, innovative, and able to work across different fields.
That's a lot to ask. But MI5 has a history of adapting. They've been around for over a century. They've seen it all.
So you think they're up for the challenge?
I do. They've got a good track record, dedicated people, and a commitment to protecting the country.
But let's not forget about some of the more questionable stuff we dug up about their past. Remember that authorized criminality thing?
Oh yeah, giving their informants permission to break the law. Still can't wrap my head around that one.
So MI5 is giving their snitches a get-out-of-jail-free card, basically. Makes you wonder what the hell they're getting up to these days.
Well, last time we left off with them dipping their toes into the world of organized crime.
Yeah, they're not just chasing after spies anymore. They've got their hands full with mob bosses and cyber criminals now.
So how did they go from busting Cold War spies to tackling good old-fashioned gangsters?
Well, their main contribution is intel gathering and analysis. Think of them as the brains behind the operation, you know.
Right, using their spy skills to help the cops catch the bad guys. Kind of like a real-life Batman and Commissioner Gordon situation.
Something like that. It all started back in the 90s when they were officially tasked with supporting law enforcement against organized crime.
I guess they realized that mobsters don't give a shit about porters. Those guys can be a national security threat.
Exactly. And let's be real, those guys often have ties to terrorist groups and other shady organizations.
So who are they working with these days?
Yeah.
Still tight with the National Crime Agency.
Oh, yeah, they're practically best friends.
Yeah.
MI5 and the NCA are working hand in hand on all sorts of investigations, from drugs and human trafficking to all that cybercrime crap.
Speaking of cybercrime, I bet that's a whole new can of worms for MI5. The internet's a fucking playground for criminals these days.
It's a nightmare. Constantly evolving, they've had to step up their game big time to keep up with all the digital shenanigans.
It's like a high-stakes game of cat and mouse, those spooks trying to stay one step ahead of the hackers.
Oh, that's one way to put it. And it's not just about catching the bad guys anymore, it's about protecting critical infrastructure from those cyber attacks, too.
True. One well-placed cyber attack could cripple a whole damn country. It's some scary shit.
No doubt about it. The stakes are high, and MI5's right in the thick of it.
So on top of being spies, now they're tech wizards too.
They have to be. Espionage has gone digital, and they need people who can hack, code, and think like the enemy.
Makes sense, I guess. But all this tech talk is making my head spin. Let's get back to some classic spy stuff. What about surveillance? They still tapping phones and listening to conversations?
Oh, they're definitely still doing that, but it's way more sophisticated than just listening in on phone calls.
I bet. With all these encrypted apps and whatnot, it's got to be a pain in the ass to keep track of everyone's conversations.
It's a challenge, for sure.
Hmm.
But MI5's got some pretty powerful toys at their disposal.
Well, yeah. Like what?
They can intercept communications, peek into internet history, even hack into your devices.
Hold up, they can hack into our phones and computers. Are you shitting me?
Yep, all legal, of course. At least that's what they want us to believe.
Legal or not, that's a bit creepy, isn't it? Knowing that Big Brother's potentially watching our every move online.
It's a legitimate concern, and it's been a hot topic in Parliament and the courts. It's tricky finding that balance between security and privacy.
Yeah, because on the one hand, you want MI5 to have what it takes to catch terrorists and criminals, but you also don't want them snooping around on innocent people.
Exactly. It's a fine line, and it's crucial to make sure MI5 doesn't cross it.
So who's making sure these guys don't overstep their boundaries? Who's watching the watchers, so to speak?
Well, Parliament and the judiciary are supposed to provide oversight, but let's be real, it's all a bit murky. Hard to know what's really going on behind closed doors.
It sounds like they're operating with a lot of secrecy.
Yep. And that's exactly why it's so important to have open and honest discussions about these issues. MI5 needs to be accountable to the public, not just operate in the shadows.
I agree. We can't let them have free rein. We need to know what they're up to and make sure they're not abusing their power.
Right on. And that means we need to talk about the tough questions. Where's the line between security and freedom? What are the ethics of all this spy stuff? What are the limits when it comes to national security?
Right, so we've talked about surveillance, organized crime, and all the challenges that come with this new digital age. What else is going on with MI5 these days?
One of their biggest hurdles is recruitment. Finding the right kind of people for this kind of work is no walk in the park.
I can imagine. You'd need someone smart, resourceful, discreet, and probably a little bit crazy, right?
Crazy might be a bit much, but they definitely need to be able to think on their feet and handle some serious pressure.
So no James Bond types.
I wouldn't rule it out completely, but it's probably not as glamorous as the movies make it seem.
More paperwork and less Aston Martins, huh?
Probably.
Yeah.
But they do have a variety of career paths, from analyzing intel to surveillance to actual field operations.
So it's not all sneaking around in the shadows.
Nope, not at all. There's a lot of brain power involved. Analyzing data, identifying threats, figuring out how to stop them.
Sounds like they need a good mix of brains and balls.
You got it. It's a demanding job that takes a special kind of person with a strong sense of duty.
Well, I'm glad they're out there, keeping us safe from all the bad guys.
Yeah.
But what about the future of MI5? What kind of shit are they going to have to deal with down the road?
That's the million-dollar question. The world's changing so fast, it's hard to predict what the future holds.
I bet it is. You've got AI, genetic engineering, climate change, all kinds of crazy shit happening. It's like we're living in a sci-fi movie.
Exactly. And all of that has implications for national security. MI5 needs to adapt to this crazy, unpredictable world.
So what kind of threats are we talking about here? Robot spies
Yeah.
and genetically engineered super soldiers?
It's not quite that dramatic, but things are definitely getting more complicated. Cyber attacks, disinformation campaigns, economic warfare, terrorism, organized crime. It's all converging and making it harder to separate and address.
So it's not just about catching the bad guys anymore.
It's about understanding the bigger picture, how all these factors connect and create instability, and then figuring out how to minimize those risks.
Sounds like they need to be more than just spies. More like analysts, strategists, maybe even diplomats.
You could say that. They need to be able to adapt, be innovative, and work across different fields and sectors.
That's asking a lot.
Hmm.
But MI5 has always been pretty good at adapting to new challenges. They've been around for over a century. They've seen it all.
So you think they're up for the challenge?
I do. They've got a good track record, a dedicated team, and a commitment to keeping the country safe.
But let's not forget about some of the less savory stuff we dug up about their past. You know, like that whole authorized criminality thing.
Oh yeah, giving their informants permission to break the law still boggles my mind. It's like they think they're above the law, giving their snitches a free pass to do whatever the hell they want. Where does it end?
It definitely raises some serious ethical questions, you know. The idea that MI5 can just greenlight murder, kidnapping, all in the name of national security, it's tough to stomach.
It's like something straight out of a bad spy flick, but it's really happening right here, right now.
That's the nature of the beast, I guess. Intelligence work often happens in the shadows, hidden from the public eye, and that's where things get dangerous.
Yeah, because how can we be sure this power isn't being abused? Who the hell is holding MI5 accountable?
That's the million-dollar question, right? There's supposed to be oversight, but it's not exactly transparent. Who knows how this authorized criminality thing really works?
It's a recipe for disaster, if you ask me. And don't forget about those torture allegations. That shit's dark, man.
No doubt about it. MI5's been trying to sweep that under the rug for years.
Boom.
But the evidence is pretty damning.
So they were basically outsourcing the dirty work, turning a blind eye to what those foreign agencies were doing to suspects.
It's hard to deny it. Makes you question their morals, doesn't it?
I mean, how can they claim to be the good guys when they're working with regimes that torture people? Total bullshit.
It's a black mark on their reputation, no question about it. If they want to earn back public trust, they need to own up to it.
So where do we go from here? What the hell can we do about all this?
I don't have all the answers, but I think it starts with demanding transparency and accountability. MI5 needs to be more upfront about what they're doing. There needs to be real oversight to ensure they're playing by the rules.
Sounds good in theory,
hmm
but how do we actually pull that off?
It's not going to be easy. Intelligence agencies are notoriously secretive. They don't like opening up. But we can't let them off the hook. We got to demand answers, keep the pressure on.
I'm with you on that. We can't let them run wild.
Mm.
We need to know what they're up to, make sure they're not abusing their power.
Exactly. We need a public conversation about this shit. We got to talk about security versus freedom, the ethics of espionage, the limits of what's acceptable.
Well said. It's time to drag that dark side of intelligence work into the light. Maybe, just maybe, we can push for some real change.
That's what we're hoping for, right? Because if we don't hold these agencies accountable, who will?
All right, folks, that wraps up our deep dive into the messed up world of MI5. We uncovered some shocking shit, talked about some tough ethical questions, and hopefully you've got a better understanding of these secretive bastards.
It's a world of shadows and secrets, where right and wrong can get pretty blurry.
But it's a world we can't afford to ignore. What MI5 does or doesn't do affects all of us.
Stay informed, stay engaged, keep asking the tough questions.
And if you see a creepy van parked outside your place, don't be afraid to call the cops. Just saying.
Haha, or maybe not.
Until next time, stay safe out there. And remember, the truth is out there, somewhere in the shadows.